Cooper from Beyond the Pitch Chicago, and I'm here tonight with Dallas-based band Fit for a King. So, if you guys want to introduce yourselves, it'd be awesome.
I'm Tuck. I play bass and sing.
And I'm Jared. I play the drums.
I'm Bobby. I play guitar.
I'm Ryan. I do vocals.
Awesome. So, first and foremost, congrats on Slave to Nothing.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're stoked on it.
You know, looking at the numbers, charted at, 49 was the peak?
We did, yeah.
So a small band, Tyler, Dallas, whatever you want to call it, it's kind of sort of the same thing. Did you expect that out of this record?
Well, we hoped for it.
Yeah, it's.
You always hope for
It was a goal. It was a goal we had, but if we hadn't reached it, I don't think it would have been a huge bummer. I think it was just a plus for me. I don't know about you guys.
It was, yeah. I mean, we all had a certain goal, not necessarily in terms of like numbers or sales, but as far as reach and growth.
Okay.
So we would have been happy with anything, and it exceeded expectations, and
Awesome.
yeah.
You know, you bring up growth, and bands every hour of every day say, you know, we've grown, we're mature, we're more mature in songwriting and music writing. What does that mean to you guys? I mean, is there a certain formula or something of that nature that happened or that you've done?
I just toured a lot more. Got older, grew as musicians.
Okay.
I think that's the biggest thing, is just we had never been a full-time touring band. And whenever we put out the first album, we had never been a full-time touring band, I should say. And on this record, we had spent the whole year prior to it touring nonstop, learning a lot about ourselves as musicians and just seeing what other bands do and picking up on it and gathering influence.
Looks like that's the answer.
Yeah, just the experience has helped a lot.
Well, what did you learn on those first couple full-time tours? Anything in particular that you kind of sat back and said, "Huh, wow, this is what we're missing," or we're going to pull this into our set, or whatever.
In terms of music, or just anything.
Okay.
Anything.
I mean, whether it be stage presence, music, musicianship, any of those things. I mean, was there anything specific?
Yeah, one thing that I specifically pulled from touring more and just playing shows is the bigger or the more solid you are live, I feel like translates a lot more than trying to put on a crazy show where you're just going all out. Like, I feel like it's more important to sound solid, and then from there, I guess put on a better show. But I think it's more important to start from sounding good.
The bands that I feel like tend to do better are the ones that you go to see and you either feel like they sound as good, if not better, than their record. And that's something that's very hard to replicate these days, especially with how technology has advanced and how these records just sound huge. So being able to actually go out and replicate that sound, I think, is the hardest and most impressive thing to be able to give to a fan.
From a fan standpoint, because first and foremost, I'm a fan. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
More often than not, you hear a band, what? No, that's not what I heard.
Right.
And like you said, I think there's more emphasis on studio than live.
Yeah.
Rather than the other way around. And we all know that the music business, you're making your money on the tours now, rather than I mean, unless you're Michael Jackson selling 10 million records or whatever, you're making your money and your bones live.
Yeah.
Well, in saying that, I feel like when we do write music, we write in our skill level. We don't try to write above that, but we still push ourselves at the same time.
Sure. I mean, I think that's an even keel.
But a lot of bands do not do that. They'll put a lot more on the record, which it may make it sound cooler, but it doesn't transfer to the live show.
So with that being said, on that same level, of the bands that you guys have toured with, played with, what band would you, in your opinion, do you think translates best from recorded to live in sound?
For today's,
For Today.
they don't even use a metronome.
Yeah,
Really?
no click,
Yeah.
no
No
tracks.
I think Upon a Burning Body is really good
Oh
live.
yeah, I enjoy them more live.
Yeah.
And they're awesome on recording, and they surpass that live.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not a slave to the computer or the iPod or whatever.
That's kind of strange how the two bands we picked don't use the computer
Yeah,
No
stuff.
tracks. You know,
Huh.
there's
It's just them and their music
There's
and
this-
their
Right.
instruments.
you can sense like a
I mean, they have sample pads, and
yeah, they played samples in between intros and stuff like that. But if they ever wanted to put a small little pause in a song or change things up or slow a part down or speed a part up, they can.
They could do it on the spot.
They
Yeah.
have that freedom. They just
just
have
do
to.
it.
They just have to talk about it prior to the set. Whereas if you're confined into your laptop, kind of like we are, it's like what's there is there. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you can't really go outside
to
of
be
those.
pre-rehearsed.
Which
pre-
there
Yeah.
are pros and cons to both.
There are.
But
Sure.
Yeah.
Kind of segue into, the record. You just said they're not a slave to the computer. Listening to the new record, there is a certain message that goes along with that, and I mean, you guys have said it in interviews and so on and so forth. What pushed you to kind of pick that topic about being a slave to nothing, whether it be money, fame, drugs, anything?
yeah.
What pushed you to touch on that?
It's just really prevalent in the world. You see it through touring, through life, personal experiences, that people just seem to be slaves to something, whether it's money or the pursuit of happiness or any of that stuff. So I figured writing an album touching on all the different types instead of just specifically only drugs or something would be an interesting way to come at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it hits on that cylinder. Everybody's a slave to something, whatever it is. Fame, money, love, something. Everybody's hooked on something.
Yeah.
Hooked. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, what's favorite track?
My personal favorite is a song called "Breakaway" because it was part of my audition for joining the band, and it's a song about a dear friend of mine that lost his life to a heroin overdose last year, and it's just basically saying, I had a hard time with always trying to get him to quote unquote break away from the lifestyle that he was leading, and I've definitely had some troubles in my personal life as well with partying and that whole aspect of that lifestyle. So that one tends to always hit me the hardest. Yeah.
I can see I can see the emotion.
Yeah.
Just in your talking, and I appreciate you.
Oh, it's no
Talking
problem.
about it.
It's just something. It's a message that I want to share to other kids because I don't want other people that are in their early 20s have to watch. I had to go to his mom's house that day and talk to her about it, and I had to bury my friend who I've known since the day he was born. So it's just it's hard, but that's something you deal with in your adolescence and your early 20s. So
It's your whole life.
yeah, well, that's what when you
Hopefully
first absolutely, but when it first hits you, the hardest part is dealing with it the first time. It gets easier. I ended up later on in the year, I lost a friend of mine to cancer, and it's just that one. It wasn't easy, but it was one of those where I was like, well, this is what's going to happen for the rest of my life, and I need to learn how to handle it and be able to learn something from these experiences. And my old self would have handled it differently and gone out and went for a drink and had to kind of bury my sorrows, if you will. And the whole point in a lot of the songs that Ryan and I wrote together was just trying to create a message to kids that there's something else out there to be able to get through these growing pains, if you will.
Anyone else?
Mine's probably not as deep as that. But musically, I think "Cleanse My Soul" is the musically my favorite. Or "Hooked."
I think my favorite track is "A Greater Sense of Self." It's got musically, I think it has like the coolest vibes, has the highest and lowest dynamics, and coolest vibes. But because yeah, it's just, to me, it's just the one that if you pull the vocals off all the songs, that's the one that is the most grabbing. So there's that.
I like Hooked. The intro is awesome. I'm excited to play that one live. There's a lot of energy.